For those of us blessed enough to have grown up in the 70s or 80s, we were probably also blessed enough to have Star Wars action figures, and we loved our Luke all the way up to his bright yellow hair. As time went on and Kenner continued to release more and more figures, the hair settled on more of a dusty brown, where it also reflected the film material. I mean, his hair did look much darker in the later films, and it made sense. But a lot of us do really fondly remember the yellow hair. It was sort of part of what made Luke Luke to a lot of us, much like kids in the 90s probably thought Luke was giant and filled with muscles. Now, while some point to the shared color with the boots, claiming that this was just an easy way of saving Deco, well, they're absolutely right, and that's true as well. I mean, that concept is actually also applied to Wundar here, the Savage He-Man. The reason that his hair is the same color as his loincloth is because only two colors were needed. The fewer colors you can use on an action figure, the less expensive it is to make. But with Star Wars, it doesn't quite tell the whole story, because Luke didn't just go from yellow to brown hair, there were quite a few different shades in between. And it wasn't because this was just limited to the first movie. If you looked at the first Luke and said, okay, well, the hair matches the boots, that means a color saver, but then why did they keep giving him yellow hair as the films went on? And they even had a figure in the first movie's line, Luke in X-Wing gear, who had clearly brown hair. So it all begs the question, why was Kenner producing Luke with brightly golden hair as late as Bespin Luke from The Empire Strikes Back wave, which, honestly, I don't know which figure has more, I guess you could say, deco changes and variants for collectors, the Tatooine Luke or the Bespin Luke. And people get into everything from boots to belts to handlebars. Well, either way. The question remains, why change Luke's hair so much, especially in the first two movies? And why did this not continue into Return of the Jedi? Especially when you look at figures that were released post Return of the Jedi, but reflect more of the Return of the Jedi haircut or color of the dustier blonde, not the brightly yellow that other figures in the first movie's line got. Alright, well, that was kind of a weird way of saying that. Got? Alright, either way, the design of Luke is something that's a lot deeper in toy making, and it reflects a lot of the demographics and sales statistics that go into driving development. First, let's actually look at the concept, or, well, the source material, not concept material. They actually have, screenshots, and yes, Luke's hair, he's definitely blonde, but he's not a, bleached blonde, platinum blonde. Sometimes his hair even looks very, very brown. Now, the modern line, when doing figures from, I'll call it the first movie, Episode 4, how about that? From Episode 4, they have gone with much more of that dusty brown look, and this goes all the way back to Power of the Force 2 in '95. We haven't had any figures, in fact, with brightly yellow-colored hair, except for the retro releases, and that doesn't really count. So, since it's sort of agreed on that he's not blonde, but he's not a brunette, great, and yes, absolutely, it's wonderful when the figure matches the source photo, because, boy, there's a lot of figures that don't. And all through what would be considered Episode 4, till the end credit scene, Luke's got that blondish, brownish hair, and now continuing all the way consistently through Return of the Jedi. Unlike the first time around, where Empire and A New Hope both got our golden boy. And yes, that's why I said to not worry about the reproductions, because in that case we're talking about reproductions. We're not talking about trends that set designs. So, why is all this done? Likability. Believe it or not, that's what drives everything. I've talked about how toys are avatars for the imagination, and that's how children play with them, whether they're Barbie dolls or He-Men. And for fictional characters, there's a difference between characters that are loved and characters that you want to be. So, you may love Olaf the Snowman, but you may not want to be Olaf the Snowman, or some other current children's animated character. So, the whole concept of, going to be a fictional character, it always plays best when the character's in a mask, because anyone could be inside that mask. That's why Spider-Man is so aspirational, Batman is so aspirational, and Superman is more like, I just want to beat someone up. Alright, so with Luke then, with that in mind, noting the difference in the shades of hair that he gets, this is very deliberately to make Luke appeal to the greatest number of kids. And yes, obviously kids come in every hair color and every skin color. You weren't going to get around the fact that Luke was Caucasian, but at least by differentiating the hair color, suddenly you were actually appealing to a larger group of potential buyers. Because as I've noted, children like to buy what they see as themselves. And something that's not talked about enough is the whole regional aspect of the U.S. market. And I'm talking about the U.S. market, not worldwide, because, well, that was the big market back then. So whereas something like Cowboys are going to play huge in New Jersey, and this guy is going to play huge in Texas. Oh wait, strike that. Reverse it. Well, actually, that's exactly the point, because you can't reverse it. You can't swap it. There are things, there are styles, there are gestures, there are facial expressions that are very regional in the U.S. market. And obviously that 100% applies to the European market and worldwide, but we're just talking about U.S. right now. In the toy industry, it's called the Urkel effect, because it's taking the same thing, the same model, the same person, and being able to film them both as a nerd and as a super cool person when he's not in costume. And how different those two looks can be. And all of this goes into things like when choosing models to appear in toy ads. And Hot Wheels is a great example of this, because they almost always have a young boy between 4 and 7 in their Hot Wheels sets. And while they absolutely, diversify their ads, it's always the same generic, oh my gosh, I did it shot with a huge, huge smile that is the key shot that shows the model, this one here. So, this is done because it's literally the most generic, happy look possible. If, believe it or not, huge scientific papers, marketing reports done on this, because no child actually makes that expression. No one sits in the room and goes, yay, I did it. Like, that's not the way, children react when toys. Roller coasters, maybe yes, but not when playing with toys. So when you're choosing a model for the packaging or for ads, whatever it is, it has so much consideration is put into maximizing the appeal, because if you have the wrong facial expression, the wrong way they're cheering, putting their arms out, that could actually not work in large sections of the US market. So much work is done into that to find, if you will, the most generic look possible that will replicate the best. And that's why we, again, wind up with the, oh yeah, I got him look, because while no child ever did this in their living room, it helps communicate to the largest audience possible the excitement of the toy. So, all right, I've been going over this, so what does all of this have to do with Luke and his many haircuts? Well, it's the exact same thing. So by having a variety of hair colors on our main hero, it makes him appeal to a larger number of potential buyers, and especially when you're dealing with regional sales, which you lose one region, you've lost, 25% of the U.S. market, and that has to be avoided at all costs. You have to get all of it, because that increases your odds of a toy line being a success. And with so many toy lines out there competing, well, you want to stand out and you want to appeal to the greatest number of potential buyers possible. So, more kids might like Luke if he's blonde, and even more might like him as a brunette. Why not keep pumping those out until we know he's popular enough that we don't have to change his hair anymore? And that's why Return of the Jedi stopped doing that. I hope this video was good insight into the changing hair color of Luke, why it was done both from a original cost-saving perspective, but then to garner larger fan base. Please share this video with others. It's the best way to help support this channel. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.